uh, when Xena did that,
Uh-huh.
um, I didn't want her to because she would wreck the bed. She would actually her nails would tear the cover,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
happening.
yeah, and I didn't want that. So I had to make a decision: do I want her on the bed at all, ever, or not on the bed? I came to the decision it's okay on the bed, but if I'm going to do that, I don't want this nesting instinct to get into place. So what I would do is I'd go up, I had a treat in my hand, I'd make her go down, lie down,
Mm-hmm.
and when she'd lie down, I reward her. So it's like it took a while. Um, I had to preempt the behavior before she did it in order
I
to
see.
make it work.
Well, it's
But
very interesting.
yeah, so it didn't actually ever completely eradicate the behavior, but I
Uh-huh.
got it. But she got to anticipate the reward coming in. You know what I mean? And so she would
Yes.
go. Then she started just going down for the reward.
Oh, I'll try some of that because he doesn't sleep on our bed. He doesn't want to sleep on the bed. He has his own crate space where he sleeps, and
Oh,
sometimes he jumps up and he'll nestle in for a little while, but then he jumps off. He doesn't sleep in our bed. My old dog used to sleep with us every night, and this dog, even when we try and get him to relax and sleep, he doesn't sleep on the bed. So it's a really odd behavior. So I will try some of the treating, and I have multiple top layers that have been shredded. The good bedspread is shredded. The pillows will fly all over. It's really quite annoying.
but
I
make it a
know.
very firm down. Make it a very firm
Uh-huh.
down.
Okay. Okay. I'll do that.
That's
I'll do
yeah.
that.
Nice.
Good
Thank
luck.
you. I like that input. Thank you so much.
Okay, you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I was recording that when Dorothea started to talk, so I'm just going to let everybody know for the recording what we're talking about. And also, hi, Joni and Rico. Good to see you here. Thank you. But Margie was asking about her dog jumping up on the bed and digging at the comforters and the pillows, and she's saying that one, it's an annoying behavior, but two, it's the pillows are flying all over the place and it's ruining the bedspread. So one theory, the reason why dogs do that is they're just making themselves more comfortable, making their bed more comfortable. Another possibility, Margie says that when he does that, a lot of times a family member will go in there and tell him, hey, stop it. So he can possibly be doing this for attention seeking as well. So my suggestion was to ignore him, put a old blanket or comforter on the bed that you don't mind if it gets ruined, ignore that. And when he doesn't receive the attention that he's used to, the behavior can possibly stop. Dorothea, as you might have heard just in the beginning of the recording, was saying that she had taught her dog to, hey, Jake, it's you. Hi, buddy. Ask your dog to lie down, reward them for lying down instead of digging on the bed. But really, I feel it's more of a, I'm just going to get comfortable, because I see that a lot in the dogs. They dig on the bed. Even those cots that I recommend, those flat cots, the dogs will dig on those too. And they can't get anywhere with that. They're not moving any blankets or anything, but I just find that's something dogs do. But we'll go ahead and get started for today. Today is week 2 of our 5-week How to Have a Calmer Dog. And I'm just having so much fun with this. I love seeing everybody here. I love talking dogs, and also getting the feedback from all of you is really wonderful. If you don't mind right now, if you could go ahead and mute yourselves, just so we don't have any background noises. But last week with week 1, we discussed the main way that I have found that calms dogs down, and that's exercise. We focused on physical exercise last week. We will be reviewing mental exercise in one of the sessions coming up. But I wanted to ask any of you, did any of you do anything different this week that you noticed that has helped calm your dog. We talked about 3 different types of walks: a walk where you just walk with your dog. We talked about a smell walk where you allow your dogs to smell, as long as they're not pulling on the leash. And then we've also talked about training walks. So where you're training during your walks, because that mental stimulation can help calm your dogs down as well as the physical stimulation. But if any of you have tried anything different this week and it worked, please type in the chat. I'd love to see it, because I'd love to be able to let others know what has been helping. I also wanted to review some of the feedback that I received, because I find that it's important. Again, what pops out for somebody, you might have missed it along the way. So I'll just repeat some of the feedback that I've received, or some of the things that I didn't mention that I thought was important, which is fun to having a series, because I can drop in and say, oops, I forgot this, but this is something that helps. So to review, a big takeaway for somebody was the type of walks. So having a plan before the walks. And you can actually you can incorporate all 3 types of walks into one walk, but just have a plan of what you're going to do on your walks. Another piece of feedback was to remember that your walks start before you actually walk out the door. So if you're leashing up your dog and they're jumping all over the place and running away from you with trying, hey, catch me, put this leash on, then that overexcitedness is going to follow through on your walks. When walking out the door, you should work on your dogs to stay and not pull you out the door, and continue pulling you down the driveway or down the hallway if you're in an apartment. Your walks start before you're actually physically walking. Some of you may need to walk your dogs off hours. That means don't walk your dog early in the morning or later at night after work, when there's a lot of stimulation outside. Depending upon what are your dog's triggers. Are your dogs becoming overreactive because they see other dogs or because they see other people? So you might have to, as you're training, you might have to walk your dog off hours so that you can have calm, successful walks. And another takeaway, which I really like, is the use of the gentle leader. Is everybody familiar with the gentle leader on a walk? Okay. So gentle leader, I have found, gives a calming effect for the dogs. For those of you that do not know what a gentle leader is, it's the leash that goes around the muzzle that snips right behind the ears. And I find the leash around the muzzle helps calm the dog. So that's a tool to possibly use to help calm your dogs on your walks, which I find very beneficial. And it was a great reminder from somebody. Those were some of the key takeaways, and some of the, I really want to make sure everybody remembers these. With it being week, hi, Tanya. So good to see you, girl. Haven't seen you forever.
I know, right?
Before I continue with our main goal of today, I want to just let everybody know, have a very happy Thanksgiving. I'm very grateful that you're here with me. I know your time is very precious. We are not meeting next week so that you can all do your cleanup and your shopping for your dogs. So we won't be meeting next week, but I will see you December 2nd for our 3rd session. With Thanksgiving coming up and such a question of how can I have a calmer dog when people come to the house, I thought that we would address that issue today. So calmer dog for when people come over. Now, my biggest suggestion for when people come to the house is practice this when you don't need it. So for example, when you're coming home, or even when you're home, do this as a training session of walking in and out of your door so that your dog can become used to you coming through the door and not getting a reaction and not getting overexcited. What happens when you practice this when you really need it is your dog doesn't know any better. And a lot of times there'll be built up frustration for you because your dog hasn't learned any differently they haven't learned to respond differently. So your frustration can go right down to your dog and it can just be a mess. So practice before your guests come over. And I know you only have a week to practice this, but hopefully with the tips that I give you today and also incorporating more exercise into your daily routine, you can notice a difference on Thanksgiving. So practice. What do you want to practice? You want to practice walking in and out of your house. Next lesson, Lorraine, is December 2nd. Two Fridays from now, I believe. Nope, December 1st. Thank you. December 1st. Our next session is December 1st. Thank you for that. So practicing walking in and out of your door. Whenever you walk in, you want to be calm. I know we all have dogs to get that love and attention. And a lot of people don't like to hear, ignore your dogs when you walk through the door, when you first come home. But I tell you, ignoring your dogs when you come home is a great way to help calm your dogs. Calm your dogs when you walk in the door, calm your dogs when others walk in the door. So, well, Tammy, my dog's jumping all over me when I walk in the door. What do I do? What do I do? Honestly, try to ignore them for 5 or 10 minutes. When you want to say hi to your dog is when they've given up and they're just lying on their bed or lying on the floor of like, oh, okay, fine, forget it. I'm not going to say hi to you. And then when you do go and say hi to your dog, it's nice and calm. It's not, oh, hi, buddy, how have you been? Oh, I missed you. I missed you. Working on ignoring your dogs when you can come home can help with separation anxiety as well as the jumping up on you when you come in the door. Now, that is my first tip for when you come home. Another suggestion that you can do is when you come home, ask your dog to sit. What I will do is I will have treats on the outside of my door, and I can grab treats, walk in, ask the dogs to sit, and reward them when I walk in the door. Another suggestion is working on go settle. So you open your door and you ask your dogs to go settle. Settle is where they go lay down on their bed and just stay and are calm until you release them and do something otherwise. And again, it takes practice. But when you practice walking through the door, then your door starts to become a trigger of, oh, I should go to my bed and I should go settle. I promise you with practice, this works. You can also enlist a neighbor to see if they can come help you with training and knock on the door, and you're practicing with your dog of going to settle when the neighbor comes over. Again, you're not in this state of, I really, really need this. I need my dog to relax because you're working in a training session. Okay, I'm just looking at a comment. The dog reacts differently to different people and different energy levels when people come to the door. Okay, New people is the hardest and not the easiest to simulate. Yes. Okay. So Glenn, what I suggest there is that you continue working on your Go Settle. And I know that we've done a lot of that with Cooper. Ask for him to go settle. And if he doesn't, if he just keeps escalating, what I would like you to do is just go ahead and put him in another room and just close the door. It's a little timeout for Cooper. I know he will probably try breaking down the door. Cooper is he's that border doodle that we were talking about last week. So we were talking about so lovingly last week. But he's a very enthusiastic dog. Many of you know my my setup in my home. Cooper from a standstill will jump over my fences. He's one of those dogs. But Glenn, your first line of attack is to continue working on your Go Settle. And then if that's not working, guide Cooper into another room and just close the door until the person has left or until you've heard that Cooper has calmed down. Now, another thing that you can do is never negate your management tools while you're training. So I'm giving you these tips, and Thanksgiving is less than a week, right? You can practice and you will see improvements, but all of a sudden, if you have 10 people coming over to the house, you're excited, they're excited, your dog's going to be excited. So let's think of how we can set our dogs up for success, because not only can a jumping dog create frustration for you, it can create frustration for your guests. Your dog can be getting yelled at only because they're excited to see everybody as well. So never negate management tools or feel bad that you're using management tools to set your dog up for success until they know better. Just think of a young toddler. A lot of you have grandchildren or young kids. You set the kids' environment up for success. We don't leave a book of matches out for kids to play with. We set them up in a playpen with things that are safe around them before giving them more space. And that's exactly what you want to do with your dogs. So different management tools that you can use with your dogs when people come over to your house. So if you know people are coming to your house, you can put your dog in their crate, in an exercise pen, in another room, or you can put them behind a baby gate. You can also put your dog on a leash so that you can guide your dog. Now, I'm using management tools today during this webinar so that I don't have to worry about my dogs barking like crazy in case they hear a blade of grass blowing in the wind that we have today. So one of my dogs I have in a room, another dog I have in her crate, and then some other dogs I have in back, but I've closed the back door so that they can't bark at me when I'm on the Zoom meeting. And it's only setting all of us up for success. They're management tools, and a lot of time management tools are used for a short period of time until your dogs know better. With the leashes, please keep in mind when using a leash with your dog, you want to always know where your dog is, because you do not want your dog to become tangled in the leash and have something terrible happen. So always know where your dog is when and if they're wearing a leash in the house or the yard. With the leashes, what I actually like is to use a ribbon. We use this in our agility class. We'll use a long decorative ribbon because they're very lightweight and they flow through the furniture, which makes it really wonderful, but yet you can still grab the leash and redirect your dog as you need to, again, to set them up for success. They also will sell lightweight leashes on Amazon too. Just look up lightweight leashes, but I definitely prefer the ribbons for a leash management tool. So your crates, don't be afraid to use your crate or your exercise pen when you know guests are coming over. If you know your dog is going to be jumping up on guests or, sticking in their nose in places where guests probably wouldn't feel comfortable with them doing so. Give a special chewy inside the dog's crate so that they know that they're getting something special while all the guests come over. You can absolutely ask your guests to help you with the training as well. A lot of times people get into this is many times I've written a note on the door saying, dogs in training, grab a treat and have the treats right outside the door and ask the dog to sit when you walk in the door. So a lot of times people think that that's a lot of fun. So when somebody comes to the door, you can help guide the guests in, have the dog sit or go settle, and the guests can reward the dogs. Just keep in mind, a lot of times when you have guests coming over to your house for Thanksgiving or Christmas or any of these holiday parties that we have coming up, our excitement is normally increased. So your dog's excitement is going to be increased as well. Think of it through your dog's point of view. They're excited of the changes. We talked about that last week of having a change in routine can definitely overexcite your dog, as well as just being overexcited in general. But seeing if you can be calm, answering the door in a calm manner instead of, oh, hi, how are you doing? I don't know if I could answer my door calmly. So I personally would do what I'm doing now. I would set my dogs up for success and put them in the room or put them in the crate. And I know everybody's okay. And then when people have come in the door and everybody's calm, then I would let the dogs out on leash. I have a 5-month-old puppy right now, and she does not know any better. We're working with her. So I would keep her on leash when people are over so that I can manage her jumping. My new puppy thinks that everybody on this planet has been put here for her. We've worked really, really hard to have her social. And so she's just the happiest gal to see anybody new. And so she's very excited when walking or seeing people in classes that they're all here for her. So to set her up for success again, I'll have her on a leash so that I can manage her. So never think bad about using your management tools. Does anybody have any questions that are online right now? You can send me a chat, or if you're watching this recording. I had technical difficulties with the recording last week, but I figured it out. And so I'll be sending out the recording from last week within the next couple days. So please be on the lookout for that. I actually might combine last week and this week together. So please be on the lookout for that. Okay, if nobody has any other suggestions here, I am going to share my screen and just play a video on how I work on the dogs not jumping. Now, the video that I'm going to play here, these are some of the boarding school dogs or day trained dogs that I've had in the past. And even with watching last week, when I was watching the loose leash walking, I was pretty impressed with dogs. What I remember is the beginning of the training where the dogs are really, really happy-go-lucky. I will say that some of these dogs I've worked with for a little bit, so they're a little more calm, but I just want to show you what I do. Okay. How do I do this here?
Good boy. Good boy. Jumping. Jumping is one of the biggest problem behaviors that people want me to solve. I am going to give you one of my top tips for working on your dog not jumping. That is practice. Practice with your dog when you do not have a handful of groceries, you're walking in the house from not seeing them all day. You want to practice when you can control your dogs. Good sit. Good boy. When you can control your dogs a little bit more. So simply grab a handful of treats. Ah, good boy. Good good boy. You're going to grab a handful of treats.
I'm going to pause that real quick. Because what I want you to notice there is that Jedi was jumping up on the counter. And instead of me taking the treats from the counter and then reinforcing him for getting off out of my hand with the treats I just grabbed from the counter, I tossed the treats onto the floor. So I'm not reinforcing him with treats that I just got off the counter. I'm redirecting him to the floor and making the floor the reinforcing thing, not my hand that just came from the counter that he was curious about.
Walk out your door. I've been hanging with Jedi for a little bit, so he's not super excited, but this is where you start. Then walk back in your door. And see, we don't even care. They're not even around. Go ahead, sit. Good. But when I walk in the door, I ask my dog to sit, or I can also ask them to go settle. So I love these raised beds for the dog's settle spot. Hey, Jedi, Jedi. Boy, I love these raised beds for the settle spot. You can work on toss a treat on the settle spot when you walk in the door, or ask your dog go settle. Now you practice this with yourself, but you also work on having a friend come over and you're armed with treats and you're ready for a training session. So once again, you have your treats, walk out your door, walk back in your door. Good boy, Jedi. Jedi, good boy. Good sit, and reinforce the sit. Or reinforce the go settle. Now your settle spot can be anywhere. It's just for the video purposes. I have it right next to the door. Good, go settle. But practice. Whenever I ask students if they've practiced with their dogs when they don't need them not to jump. Okay, so for example, have you practiced when you have been home for a little while, or have you practiced having a friend come over and working with your dog not to jump? Most people will say no. Most people only practice with their dogs when you haven't seen them all day and you come home from work and your dog is just overly excited and overly stimulated. So that's not the best time to practice. Yes, you do want to practice during those times, but what's going to help you more is if you practice when they're not super excited to see you already. So you're hanging with your dog, just take a step out the door, come back in, reinforce the sit or reinforce the go settle. There's many other tips that I can give you, but this is one of my top tips that I like to give students is practice. And the more you practice, the better your dog will become. Remember, consistency over time gets results. Best of luck. Are you ready? Okay. Hey, baby. Hey, hey. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. Kona. Hi, Kona. Yeah, you did that.
I was laughing because I was trying to get the dogs excited to jump up on me like they normally do. But of course, when I'm videotaping, they're like, oh, let's act like we're perfect puppies. So I would not normally walk into the door that enthusiastic, but I was trying to elicit them jumping up on me. I hope that video was helpful. And Glenn, to just reiterate your point of that Cooper reacts differently to other people. And Kate, I feel this helps with you too. Kate has 3 dogs and they react to the sound of their neighbor's car locking. And I've been doing this for well over 20 years. And I have to tell you that this is one of the new, this is a new question for me. But both Glenn and Kate, I feel if you've asked your dogs to go settle and calm down, but they haven't, go ahead and put them in another room and close the door so that they have a chance to calm down themselves. And Kate, if possible, I would try putting a dog in a different room, if possible. I know you have 3 of them, so, but I think Bill was saying that Ruthie is probably the instigator. You could put the instigator behind the closed door and see what happens there. So just for a little time out. So for all of you to think about those situations, Joni, I know that you had also mentioned last week, thank you for emailing me, by the way, with having the 2 dogs, they just seem to play off of one another. So if you're able to separate the dogs and put them in a separate room, that can also be helpful. So to review, to help when your guests come over this week, management tools, don't be afraid to use them. And also, this will help with you as well to not feel guilty about indulging on our wonderful Thanksgiving feast, is get out for a walk or a hike before guests come over. Then your dog will be calmer and you can eat more. Gosh, that's a win-win situation if I ever knew one. So that actually wraps it up for me today. Can anybody tell me a takeaway that you've received from today's webinar? And if you're watching the recording, and I promise I'll get you the recording, please shoot me an email. I would love to hear anybody's takeaway. I'll call on one of you if you don't. Oh, Kona, I hope you're learning through osmosis. I see you there, buddy. Janine, you had also mentioned about people coming to the door. I hope this has helped today. Yeah. Okay. Well, if nobody has any feedback or, oh, here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. For some feedback, having guests help with the training. That's a fun idea. Yes. And then Joni also mentioned having treats outside the door. Good. 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 That's good. And the ribbon leash. Yes. It's good. Thank you. Oh, good, Janine. I'm glad this has helped. Yep, the management tools. Yeah, so just to review the management tools, everybody, is your crate, exercise pen, another room in your house, having your dog on a leash, but they should be supervised. Don't leave your dog unsupervised on a leash for safety reasons. I can't stress that enough, okay? Safety. And yes, put your dog away until they're calm. Actually, I was just talking to my neighbor last night and she was mentioning about the runs that she has in the yard. She has one in the front yard and the backyard. So that's a great thing too, because the dogs can be outside. They can say hi to people, but they're not able to jump on people coming over. So having runs outside is another wonderful management tool as well. Lisa, I'll write that down so I can make sure I get it in my newsletter. Yeah, and use the leash when the dogs are jumping on the door. So you want to just grab the leash and pull them back, and you can either ask them to sit or go settle. But if they're too excited and that's not working, they just keep pulling and jumping, I would just guide them into another room and close the door. That's how I would use the leash when guests come over. Great. With clicker training, sure. So Lisa's asking about clicker training. If your dogs are clicker trained, this is another wonderful tool to use. If people are not familiar with the clicker, a clicker is a sound that you can give your dog. A lot of times it's a manual click of a clicker, or you can say the word good or yes, and it's always followed with a treat. So the click or the word means treat. And it can be very, very powerful in letting your dog know, yes, that is the right thing. You're going to receive a treat. So when you practice and walk in and out of your door, ask your dog to sit or go settle, and you can click and reward when they're doing that behavior. The clicker training can be powerful in respects of the dogs wanting to work to hear the clicker or the word and receive a treat. So that's how that clicker training can be very powerful, because you create a dog that offers behaviors, even if they're the wrong behaviors. They'll offer behaviors to hear the click, to receive a treat. So with the clicker, I would work on the down or the go settle. And when they're not jumping, click and reward. Another thing you can do too is you can walk in the door and just toss treats on the ground to redirect the dogs away from the door. Their noses to the ground so they can't be jumping up, and also they're excited for the treats and trying to find the treats. I would use the word find it for the dogs to search for the treats on the ground. And again, that's something that you'll want to practice. Your dogs probably won't even realize treats are being thrown when they're in a heightened state of arousal. So you'll want to go ahead and practice with walking in and out of your door and say, find it, for them to grab their treats and even realize something's down there when they're in that heightened state of arousal. And yes, Janine, I am going to send a recording of all the weeks. I had some technical difficulty in the first session that I have figured out. So I will send the recordings. And this is one reason why I wanted to do this webinar. This is new for me. I did do some things during COVID, but these webinars are new for me. So I'm learning as we go as well. Oh, but man, I created some new words and shed some tears with trying to figure out what was going on with the recording from last week. But so we will go ahead and wrap it up. We were on for about 40 minutes today, but I hope everybody got a lot out of it. I really appreciate the chats and you chiming in for the chats. It's very helpful. And your emails and your texts are also helpful to me. The more that I receive from you, the more I'm able to give back. And that's really what I want to do. Besides learning how to do a webinar, I really just want to give back and make connections with all of you. So thank you all very much. We'll sign off. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you December 1st. Thank you.